Hello and welcome to Trucking Business Success, and welcome to today's video. We're going to talk about 7 of the top reasons that trucking companies fail and go out of business. And we're going to talk about the top trucking mistakes that are made and how you can avoid those if you're starting or building or growing your own trucking company. Number 1, first reason that a lot of trucking companies go out of business is lack of trucking business knowledge. Trucking is a unique business. It's not like real estate. It's not like insurance. It's not like many other highly regulated professions where you have to go out and get a license, or you have to go through mandatory training. For example, you want to become a real estate licensee, you want to get a real estate salesperson's license, you have to go to a mandatory principles of the real estate course, complete a certain number of hours. You have to pass an exam for that course, and then you also have to pass your licensure exams. Very similar with insurance. You're going to have to take some training, you're going to have to pass an exam. And there's a long list of other professions that require that. Trucking, in many respects, is more regulated than real estate, in my opinion. This is the regulation manual for trucking, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regs. If you get a copy of the regulation manual for real estate, it's about that thick. There's still some key, differences, obviously, but trucking is a very, very heavily regulated industry. And beyond that, you have lots of moving parts on the business side of it that you also have to know in order to be able to book enough profitable freight and deliver those loads and be able to make a profit and keep your business up and operating. So those things combined cause a awful lot of people to overextend themselves and get into something that they're not prepared for. On the one hand, it's great. It's great that there is no real barrier to entry. Anybody that wants to start a trucking company that's got the money to file for their authority, log on to the DOT site, log on to the FMCSA site, follow the prompts, key the stuff in there, go and do the things that you need to do in order. If you can figure that much out, you can get your authority, but getting it and keeping it are two big different things. It's also a big different thing to be able to have your authority and be able to actually make good money with that after everything is said and done. So lack of trucking business knowledge is number 1 problem. So if you want to get into trucking as an owner-operator, fleet owner, you want to own some kind of trucking business, get some training, take some courses, go to some seminars, read some books, go talk to some people that are in business and have been in business for more than a minute. Go offer to buy somebody lunch or something to sit down. Don't take up their whole day picking their brain, but, offer to buy lunch or something if they can sit down and talk to you for 30 minutes, or you can sit down and talk to them for 30 minutes. And, a lot of people might surprise you that they're willing to sit down and share some information with you. Some won't. Some are just too busy. Some are just not interested in doing that kind of stuff. But if you ask enough, you will find somebody that will help you out. Other people are willing to give you some information for a little bit of a consulting fee, a little bit of money. Say, hey, look, I'll pay you a couple $100 if I can come sit down for a couple hours and I got a list of questions I want to ask, that sort of thing. Or find an actual trucking consultant, preferably one that is in business or recently been in business doing the thing that you're wanting to do, not somebody that's just, studied it or doing bookkeeping for trucking or something of that nature without actually owning a trucking business themselves. In my opinion, that's not your best source of information. You need somebody that's actually operating or has operated a trucking business, or at least has been in management of one that has been successful for a large number of years. So get some training, get some information before you just jump into it and find out that you've bitten off more than you can chew. And it happens to an awful lot of people. Number 2 reason, failure to run enough and failure to run smart enough. A lot of people want to become owner-operators so they can control their time, and I get it. We all want to do that. We want to go home more often, want to work less, all that sort of thing, make more money. But the reality is, especially when you're first starting a business and you have expenses for the truck and the trailer and getting your authority and setting up your drug and alcohol testing and getting your insurance set up and getting your decals on your truck and getting yourself in the drug and alcohol testing program and the supervisor training and the BOC3 and on and on and on. All these things add up to a lot of money that you're paying out before you have a chance to earn the first dollar of revenue. So when you're first starting out, particularly, you need to be ready and prepared to run, and your family needs to be aware and adjusted and ready to deal with that. If you put limitations on yourself where you got to be home every day, every other day, something like that, it's going to be much more difficult for you to make the kind of money that you need to make to sustain your business until you get your accounts built up and until you have somewhat of a freight base of your own. So be prepared to run and work hard, and probably work harder than you ever worked in your life. You got two hats at that point. You're no longer just the driver. You are now the business owner and the driver. It's two distinctly different jobs, and you're going to have to do them both, or have somebody to help you with part of it, and still you're responsible for it. So in the end, you're going to wind up doing them both to an extent. So be prepared to run. Don't be so much worried about going home every single day. Do whatever you got to do to get out there and connect the dots, connect the loads, so you can generate the revenue and make the profit that you need to make. Now, next one is choosing the wrong equipment based on ego. There are a lot of people I know and have known over a lot of years that like, the big KWs, big old Freightliner Classics, of course, the Peterbilts and all that kind of stuff. And those are beautiful trucks. I love them all too. But when you're first starting out, that's typically not going to be the truck that you need to go out and try to get. If you buy one that has been already rebuilt, it's going to cost you a fortune. If you buy one that's not rebuilt, the whole truck is wore out bumper to bumper, and you're going to wind up rebuilding it either a part at a time or pumping a bunch of money in it to get it up and running. They're also not the most fuel efficient trucks typically. I've got a Freightliner Cascadia. It routinely gets 8.5 miles per gallon. Routinely above 7.5 miles per gallon, even when it's pulling heavy loads. A lot of the larger trucks are not going to get that. You're going to you wind up spending a lot of money on rebuilding those older trucks. And, do whatever you want to do, but do it with making an informed decision by doing your homework and make sure you understand the differences in the equipment in terms of what it's going to cost you up front, what it's going to cost you to operate it, what it's going to cost you to repair it. I recommend, if you're looking at it for making money, that you choose the same trucks that the larger carriers are using on a regular basis. Why is that? Cascadias, Volvos, other trucks of that type, because there are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of them available. And parts and repair and stuff is plentiful, and you can get it taken care of pretty much anywhere. A lot of people aren't as interested in those trucks as they are the older, more classic style trucks. So you can often get a Cascadia or a Volvo or something for a pretty good deal if you shop around, if you're patient on that. So you can buy the truck for a whole lot less money. It's going to get better fuel mileage. You do need to have enough knowledge to be able to inspect it, make sure it's not worn out at the time that you buy it, make sure you know what you're getting into. If you can't do that, it's worthwhile to pay a trustworthy mechanic to go over the truck stem to stern for you, and make sure it's mechanically sound and it's going to get you a few 100,000 miles before you have to do any major work, or at least that's the game plan going out the gate. So choose the right equipment. Base it on business decision-making principles and not ego. Number 4, cash flow problems. A lot of people don't understand when coming into this or switching over from being a company driver to an owner-operator that from the time that you start to deliver a load, even to go pick it up, you're burning fuel, you're having expenses and things that you have to pay for. But you deliver that load, unless you're going to run it through a factoring company or you have some kind of quick pay option available through a brokerage, you get the load, some way of getting your money within a few days, it could take you weeks before you get paid on a load. So you need to understand the type loads that you're running, how you're going to get paid. Are you targeting loads from brokers and others that have some kind of quick pay settlement option available to where you're going to be able to get paid within a couple of days? Or are you going to use a factoring company? It's basically a short-term loan company. There's other technicalities where you can do recourse, non-recourse, and all that kind of stuff. You're going to need to do some research into factoring, figure out if you're going to do that or not. And if you're not going to do factoring and you're not going to target loads that pay you within a couple of days, then you're going to have a much larger cash reserve. That means your own money in the bank to be able to sustain you and your business, both your personal expenses, living expenses, stuff, and your business expenses until you're able to collect on the money for the loads that you've already run. And you're going to have to bill that and track that from the time that you send out that invoice till you get paid on it. So cash flow problems are big for a lot of people. They also don't understand that you may have even 2 months of insurance payments before you really get in the mix and get out there running a lot of loads. A lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and pay this one payment, get out there, run for 30 days. By the time that you get everything filed and you have to have the insurance done before they will finalize the processing, it can be another 2 or 3 weeks after that before you get your authority. So you've already paid out insurance. You finally get everything up and running. You're probably, come in within another week or 2 weeks or so of making another insurance payment, and you've generated very little revenue, if any revenue at all. So a lot of people make that mistake. You're also going to have fuel going out. You're probably going to have something wrong with the truck, and no matter how carefully you screen it, there's almost always going to be something that you didn't find or something that goes wrong. Could be as simple as a tire. A tire is a few $100. Could be something with the pollution crap on the trucks. That could be anywhere from a few hundred to a few $1,000s, and that's enough to put you out of business right out the gate if you have a couple of things like that happen and you don't have the money or the resources to be able to take care of that. So cash flow problems. And that leads us into the next thing, which is inadequate emergency reserve funds. I like to say ERF and ORF, emergency reserve funds and operating reserve funds. As I just said, even your best planning, there's going to be things that go wrong. Stuff's going to break on the truck. It's going to have to be towed at some point. It's going to have to go to the shop. You're going to have downtime. You have several days not able to run it and generate revenue because the truck is broke down. And you're going to have the cost of the repair. So you need an emergency reserve fund. That's basically emergency savings for you to be able to cover that. You're also going to need operating reserve funds. You need money just to take care of business and take care of keeping the lights on and doing whatever you need to do to sustain your business. You may have a situation where if you have a finance truck, you have a couple of payments due, or at least a payment due on it before you're able to get it out of shop. So you need money set aside to take care of that while that truck is being repaired. And you're going to need personal savings on top of that, because you still have to pay for your own housing, your own utilities, your food, whatever else you need to sustain yourself and your family. So emergency reserve funds, operating reserve funds, and personal savings. And a lot of folks go into this with little to none of that, and the first little hiccup can become a major crisis, and it's enough to put you out of business. So keep that in mind. Number 6, failing to ask for more. Failing to be able to do any kind of sales activity. When you're talking to brokers and you're talking to shippers, you need to always ask for more money. Let's say it's a short haul load that you can turn in a couple of hours. You can get down delivered within a couple of hours from the time that you pick it up. And they've got that on a load board for, let's just say, $5.50. Now, freight rates are all over the place right now, so I'm not trying to tie this into a particular actual load amount. It could be significantly more, significantly less, depending on the day of the week, what you're looking at, and all that kind of stuff. But let's just say $5.50. You don't just book the load for $5.50. Get a hold of the broker. If you can bid electronically, bid electronically. If you can't, call the broker and say, hey, look, I see this load you got on here going to Winchester to Richmond. You got on there for $5.50. Could you do $6.90? And he's probably not going to do that, but he'll come back and do $6.50. So you got $100 more. They wanted $5.50, you got $100 more. And you say, well, it's not a whole lot, it's only $100. If you're doing that every day, that's $500 or $600 or more dollars per week. And in some cases, you can get double that. That might be $1,000 or $1,200 additional dollars per week. That's enough for a lot of people to cover their entire insurance payment. So, you do that the next week, that's enough to cover your truck payment. You do that the next week, that's enough to cover your trailer payment. So how much is that worth? That extra money that you don't get if you don't ask for it covers your truck payment, your insurance, your trailer payment, all kinds of other things for you. But you won't ever get it if you don't ask for it. You have to be willing to ask for it. And sometimes people are going to say no. That's a whole nother issue. You need to know what the freight rates are at all given times and in the areas that you're operating in. Know what your cost per mile is, know what your bottom dollar is, what you're willing to run something for, what you want based on business at the time and knowing your numbers, not just emotion. But that's another topic for another video someday. But you know, if you know those things and the rates in the ballpark where it needs to be to start with, you always want to make sure it's at the upper end of that spectrum when you're asking for it. You want to get as much as you can and still get that load booked, okay? So failing to ask for more money costs people an awful lot of money, money that can cover all their expenses. So make sure you do that. Yeah, number 7 kind of ties into all this stuff, mindset. A lot of people come in with a company driver mindset or with a dazed and confused mindset where they haven't done enough research, don't know what they're getting into as far as a business. So again, get some training, get some information, learn about trucking, establish a proper mindset, have goals, have plans, have your stuff set up in a way that makes sense to you. It's a good idea to write it down, use a notebook or use a planner of some type, and be working a specific plan that you have thought out carefully and that you've got the information to back that up, the principles and that kind of stuff, and that you're following it, and you're always continuously learning. Nobody knows everything about trucking, and if you start thinking that, you're pretty much doomed right out of the gate. So don't think like that. Always be willing to learn, keep working every day to learn more and to keep improving. So I hope those things help you a little bit. And come on back to Trucking Business Success, and go ahead and subscribe while you're here, and there'll be more informative videos coming up very soon. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Make sure you subscribe while you're here.